All right, y'all, let's talk about how J.D. Vance has effectively sold his soul to the devil. So as you all know, there was a time when he called Donald Trump America's Hitler. He said he couldn't see himself voting for him, never mind joining him on a ticket as his VP. And he's just done a complete 180, a total heel turn, and it is for every horrible reason you can imagine. He is a vapid human being. He has no core, no morals, and he's a status chaser. He's a careerist. And so, I could hitch my wagon to this guy who seemingly weathers all storms, and then I'll be good. Maybe one day I'll be president. Well, fuck you and your ambitions. I don't give a fuck about how you see yourself historically and what your legacy be. Oh, you were president. Oh. I don't give a fuck about that. He's now just openly serving everybody deeply fascist, brazen lies. And we're going to talk about it here in just a second. So before we get into that, let's start with this. Just 15% of Americans think all the Venezuelans the Trump administration deported are actually gang members, as the administration says they are. It includes just 32% of Republicans. A majority of Americans think the administration has likely made at least some mistakes with the deportations. Now, let me be clear about this. They are not making mistakes. They're not making mistakes. They simply don't care who they round up and who they kick out. How do I know that? ICE has a quota now from Trump, 1,200 deportations a day. Well, guess what? We've already blown through all of the undocumented immigrant violent criminals that you're going to kick out of the country. So then you move to people who aren't criminals who might be here illegally. And then you move to green card holders and legal permanent residents and people who have zero criminal record whatsoever and are good family people and they work and all that stuff, right? And it's astonishing to me. I guess to give credit to the media here, there has been just a tsunami of stories explaining, hey, this person was a professional soccer goalie that Trump just sent to an El Salvador slave labor camp. Hey, this person was a gay barber. Hey, this person had tattoos, but it was an autism awareness tattoo for their 15-year-old brother. They have a history of helping disabled kids. Oh my God. He's shipping the best of us to an El Salvador slave labor camp or to Venezuela. So it's just astonishing. And Americans are onto it and they know about it. They know about it. So for the administration to keep doubling down and tripling down, like, everybody knows you're monsters. Everybody knows it. Now, unfortunately, with some of the Republicans, I think they would say only 32% say that, they're getting the right people. But at the same time, when you look at his support for his immigration policy, it's sky high. So some of them are like, yeah, I know he's not getting the right people. I don't care. So in other words, some significant chunk of the Republican base are just fascists. They're just fascists. Okay, let's continue here. This is going to get crazier and crazier. Ready? This is the precedent Trump needs to send you to a concentration camp. This is how it starts. You must pay attention. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland father of two, including a 5-year-old with special needs, was here legally under protected status. No criminal record, no charges. Then ICE swarmed his car after he picked up his son. They handcuffed him, waited for his wife to arrive, and drove him away. 2 days later, he was in an El Salvador mega prison. The official explanation in administrative error. So on this one, the regime is admitting, yeah, we fucked that up. Wait for it, because eventually they flip on that. The top levels of the regime are like, no, we didn't. It's fine. Even though ICE knew Garcia had legal protection, they deported him anyway. He wasn't even on the original flight manifest. He was added as an alternate. Now Trump's lawyers argue courts can't bring him back and shouldn't bother trying. Why? Because Trump's primacy in foreign affairs outweighs Garcia's rights and his family's suffering. J.D. Vance smeared him as a convicted gang member. More on that in a second. That's a lie. Even the arresting officers in 2019 didn't believe it. He was never charged. And when courts tried to intervene, Bukele mocked them with a tweet. Oopsie, too late. If Trump can disappear Abrego Garcia, he can disappear you. If Trump can strip his rights with no accountability, he can do it to anyone. This is why due process matters. This is the El Salvador slave labor camp that we're talking about here. Okay, more. So, Jon Favreau comes out, sees this story, that an administrative error sent an innocent father to a slave labor camp. This is one of the pod save guys here. He says, any comment on this, Marco Rubio? How about you, JD Vance? How about you, Elon Musk? You just admitted to accidentally sending an innocent father from Maryland to a torture dungeon in El Salvador, and you refused to do anything about it. So in court, they said this is administrative error, but they also said there's nothing we can do about it. It would literally take one phone call from one top administration official, and they would have that guy on a plane within 20 minutes. Okay, ready? JD Vance comes in and says, my comment is that according to the court document you apparently didn't read, he was a convicted MS-13 gang member with no legal right to be here. My further comment is that it's gross to get fired up about gang members getting deported while ignoring citizens they victimize. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most disgusting lies I've ever seen in politics. This is right up there with the lie that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and they were targeting the United States. Brazenly lying. He said he was a convicted MS-13 gang member. That is a flat-out lie. Here, let's dive more into it. This is literally fake news. JD Vance didn't read the court documents, as he's smugly accusing Favreau of not reading them. Here's what they actually say. Abrego Garcia is not a convicted gang member. He's never been charged or convicted of any crime. Police accused him of being MS-13 after stopping him and 3 other men for allegedly loitering outside a Home Depot where he says he'd gone to apply for a job. It was his first and only time in state custody. Law enforcement separated the men and interrogated them about gang membership. They told Abrego Garcia he could leave if he gave them information, which he said he didn't have. One of the other men pointed the finger to Abrego Garcia and accused him of being affiliated with part of a gang that operates in New York, where he's never lived. That, along with the fact he was wearing a Chicago Bulls hat and hoodie, is the evidence law enforcement said showed he was in a gang. When his lawyer went to find the police report for the Home Depot incident, Abrego Garcia wasn't even named on it. And what about the subsequent gang evaluation? The investigator who authored it was suspended. In late 2019, Abrego Garcia won his case and was granted protected status and was released from custody. He has had no arrest since. Those are the facts. So a judge looked at the facts of the case, laughed at it, and said, I am protecting this. I'm giving this man special protection from deportation. Vance complains a lot about dishonesty and fake news, and here he is spreading an outright lie about someone the administration he's serving in just mistakenly sent to a third world prison without due process. A staggering level of incompetence. He should be deeply embarrassed. The thing is, like I said, they don't care. They don't care. It's actually not a mistake. They don't care. But Abrego Garcia was denied bond. That's because the law requires that judges view ICE allegations as inherently trustworthy when the agency submits someone for deportation. Worse, ICE erroneously noted on its form that Abrego Garcia had been arrested as part of a murder investigation instead of a loitering investigation. Being denied bond does not make you guilty under the law. Conservatives used to define themselves by their skepticism toward government because it often gets things wrong. Now, a lot of these same people demand we trust the government implicitly, even after it just sent the wrong guy to a third world mega prison. Give me a break. The fact of the matter is, they have no principled stance in favor of small government. When they say they want small government, what they mean by that is, hey, stop giving black people welfare. Cut Social Security so grandma becomes homeless. That's the small government they want. The big government they want is a government large enough to invade Greenland and steal Canada and steal Panama and bomb Yemen and bomb Somalia and do war with Mexico and war with Iran. And they want a government big enough to act like an emperor and like a king, like a dictatorship where nobody has rights, nobody has due process, and the unitary executive can ruin people's lives on a whim. So in some senses, they want giant government. In other senses, they want next to no government. But there is nothing principled here. This is only principled if you're a fascist, where you say, I don't care who the fuck we deport. Do they have brown skin? Do they have tattoos? Get them the fuck out of here. And that is where JD Vance is, and that is where Donald Trump is. So by the way, ready for this? After we learned the Trump regime in court said, yeah, this one was an administrative error. This isn't the right guy. He was a late ad. We know that there's really no evidence. The Trump regime admitted this in court. But that's okay, because the top officials in the Trump regime, like this disgusting bitch, is going to come out here, listen to what she says.
Just changing subjects for 1 second, the administration has expressed a complete confidence in how all the deportation flights to El Salvador were conducted. But now that the administration has conceded that there was an error of one Salvadoran national, will there be any reviews conducted? And does the president express any thoughts on the one error that was disclosed in court last night?
Well, first of all, the error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang. That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking. And fact number three, this individual was a member, actually a leader of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization.
3 immense lies in a row. And the reason they do this is because they get away with everything. They know, hey, this will be in the news for 2 days, then it'll be gone, the media will move on to something else. They can't help themselves but say, squirrel, shiny object. And so they figure, hey, if we admit that we're wrong and we bring this innocent man back home, that might undermine our entire program here. We refuse to do that. So we're just going to always say we're right. And we don't, that's the thing. They don't care that this man is innocent. They don't care. They don't care about the gay barber who was sent there. They don't care about the Venezuelan soccer goalie. They don't care about any of the innocent. They tried to send a woman to the El Salvador slave labor camp. And the El Salvador government was like, it wasn't part of the deal, bro. We're sending this one back. When you are being outflanked on human rights by the El Salvador dictator, what the fuck is going on in this country? I want to give you Favreau's response. Again, this is one of the Pod Save guys. And he really started the feud with J.D. Vance, where J.D. Vance jumped in and humiliated himself and flagrantly lied to the entire world. Really just a completely evil man, J.D. Vance is. Totally immoral, totally unethical, doesn't give a fuck about human rights or due process or the Constitution. Again, this is what I'm trying to stress to you people that you need to really get through your head. They're not like you. These are evil people. They're genuinely and sincerely evil. And so Favreau actually does a phenomenal job here taking J.D. Vance to the wood chipper.
I need to tell you all about my Twitter fight with J.D. Vance. The news just broke that for the first time, the Trump administration admitted in court that they sent a father from Maryland to rot in a dictator's torture dungeon based on, quote, an error and, quote, an oversight. Even worse, the Trump administration is also arguing in court that even though they've mistakenly sent this man to a Salvadoran prison, they have no ability to bring him back. The Atlantic broke the story Monday night. The man's name is Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He came to the U.S. in 2011 because real gang members in El Salvador were threatening to kill him. He married an American citizen. He works full-time. He's caring for 2 kids. One is a 5-year-old with autism who can't hear well or communicate. In 2019, Garcia spent a year in ICE detention because he was accused of being a gang member, an accusation based only on his Chicago Bulls hoodie and a single informant who claimed that Garcia belonged to a chapter of MS-13 in a state where he's never lived. Even the police said they didn't believe the informant. To this day, Garcia has never been charged or convicted of any crime in any country. Garcia ultimately won his case. A judge freed him and gave him a specific legal protection from being deported to El Salvador because the judge was worried that they'd torture or kill him. 6 years later, just a few weeks ago, as Garcia was picking up his son after work at his grandmother's house, ICE agents stopped him, handcuffed him, took him away from his family, and sent him to prison in El Salvador without any due process. And his wife only knew this because she saw his picture on TV. I was shaking with anger when I read this story last night. I tweeted about it. I asked if Marco Rubio or Elon Musk or J.D. Vance had any comment. At 1 a.m. Eastern, J.D. Vance wrote back. He said Garcia was a convicted MS-13 gang member, a lie, with no legal right to be here, another lie, and told me it was, quote, gross to get fired up about the government admitting that it sent an innocent man to a foreign prison. You know what's gross, J.D.? That unlike your own Justice Department, you can't admit that you fucked up.
This is the one area where I disagree with him. John, they didn't fuck up. They are fascists. They're fascists. They don't care. If you're getting out of this country brown people or brown people with tattoos, that's what they want. That's what they want, which is why they're acting like, no, we stand by this, because they stand by it. Even given the facts, they stand by it. Sure, he lied about the facts, but given the facts, they still stand by it. How do I know that? They haven't brought back the gay barber who was sent there. Still disappeared. So that's the only area of disagreement thus far is people are struggling to wrap their minds around that these people are evil. They are evil.
We're paying $6 million a year to jail people, some who've committed no crime, and ask him to release Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Or Andre Romero, the gay Venezuelan makeup artist who's also been wrongly imprisoned. Or any of the more than a dozen people you've now sent to be starved and tortured based on nothing more than a few suspicious tattoos. That's fucking gross.
One of the people that they kicked out of the country had tattoos, and they were like, these are gang tattoos. The tattoo said, Mom and Dad. Do you understand yet? Do you get this yet?
And people need to speak up. Call your member of Congress. Ask Democratic politicians to speak up. Because if J.D. Vance and Trump get away with this, it will not stop with immigrants. It almost never does.
100% right. 100% right. What else is there to say about this? When you have just run-of-the-mill, he's just like a run-of-the-mill centrist liberal. When they are starting to sound like this, there's an awakening happening in this country right now. There's an awakening occurring. Because every normal person, even just if you have just a bare minimum basic sense of morality, you're looking at this and you're going, what the fuck is going on here? What is going on? And so, like I said, this is not the time for middle grounds. This is not the time for bipartisanship. This is not the time for due process. This is the time for due process. This is not the time for holding hands and singing Kumbaya and meeting halfway and decorum and civility. This is the time for making a big fucking stink about this. This is the time for being completely unapologetic and no holds barred and aggressive about all of this, right? Because J.D. Vance hasn't come out and said dick. You know what he did come out and say? In one of the tweets, and in fact, it may have been the one I read you, I'm not sure. He said, this happened in 2019 under the Biden administration. And he doesn't realize who was president in 2019? Donald Trump. So he corrected himself on that and was like, oh, I thought it was 2021, but actually it's 2019, which means during the Trump administration. Totally did not address the flat out lie. He's a convicted MS-13 gang member. Didn't address it. So yes, we are witnessing the complete and utter destruction of our Constitution, the complete and utter destruction of due process. And they love it because that's the point. He wants to be a king. He wants to be a dictator. He's surrounded by little sycophantic bitches who are fine with that and who are fascist in their own respect. And that's why we are where we are. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? That's the question. What are you going to do about it? These are crimes against humanity. And the rapid decline of the American experiment in such a brief time frame is absolutely mind-boggling, but it's happening. We're already there. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.